Perfect Blue is Satoshi Kon's masterpiece from 1997. This is a film that I've been meaning to watch on the big screen for some time. I've only watched this on the laptop and on a TV, so that's twice, and that was the last time I watched it was like over a decade ago. I think this is a movie that really sticks with you after you watch it once, so you don't really go back to revisit it because it does a great job at scarring you, and I will talk about it. So this is a movie that's going to kick off our 13 days of Halloween because these are my favorite horror films. So I have 13 of them. Perfect Blue is going to be the first one we start off with. I just had the opportunity to watch it on the big screen, and like I said, it was remastered in 4K, and I'm going to tell you, this movie is as timely as ever, almost 30 years since its release date. So let's get into it. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Let's talk about Perfect Blue. Perfect Blue basically follows a pop star called Mima who wants to become an actress now, or so she thinks. Her team's really pushing her to become an actress and for her to let go of her pop group that she is in, Charm. And this is kind of like a thing where Mima has no control of her life really. She is young and aspiring to be something great, and so she thinks she's just gonna listen to her team and they probably know best, right? We know that's not gonna be the case. Suddenly things start to happen around her. A mysterious murderer is lurking and things are just getting out of control. And I won't get into further detail about what exactly happens in this movie because I think it's a movie you just have to go into and just really experience it. I will tell you there are some very heavy subjects in this film that deals with sexual assault as well as murder and all of that. Definitely look into that if that's something that you really don't like. I know a lot of people don't like that from horror films or dramas and things like that, so I always like to give a little bit of a heads up. But I think Perfect Blue really is a giallo, Japanese thriller, psychological. There's so many words you can throw in here, and I think Satoshi Kon does a great job at really blending all of these genres and subgenres into what I think is such a great psychological film for our society today, especially with voyeurism, parasocial relationships, identity crisis that is currently at hand. And I think that most of this film really is going to be a film that's going to test you. It's going to push you. It's going to get a reaction from you. There are so many scenes that come to mind right now, and I want to get into spoilers, where I was just like, that we're headed in that direction. And that's really what the movie is trying to do. It's trying to twist and sort of push you and see how much you're going to take. And by the end, you're just feeling like that was just something. And it's one of those films that I think really continues to showcase just how timeless it is, because a lot of what we see Mima go through is a lot of the things we see, not just celebrities, but nowadays people that just post themselves online, which can be anybody, and sort of can draw this attention, maybe an attention they also don't want. Because most people are looking for validation or positivity from the internet, and we know the internet is far from that. I will tell you, as somebody who's been doing videos for a while now, it is something that comes with it. When you post online, you pretty much are posting yourself to everybody out there, and not a lot of people out there are nice. And I think you see a lot of what Mima goes through with sort of trying to appeal to everybody, and then ultimately she is losing grip of who she really is, because we all wear masks when we're out, right? We all have a different persona, maybe with our friends, with our family, and our work, and then maybe what we're presenting online. And you start to sort of blend those together, and then you're like, wait, but who am I to myself really? And I think that's a big question that comes off in Perfect Blue. More into a deeper meaning of Perfect Blue in an explanation video, which I will be doing. Stay tuned for that. But let's go back to the film itself. I think the animation here is really interesting what Satoshi Kon does. If you've seen some of his other work, like I've seen Paranoia Agent, you definitely get a vibe that this is Satoshi Kon, because the way that the characters look and everything and the way they act, it is almost like Satoshi Kon really is going for a realism approach, as in comparison to maybe some of the counterparts or other things in anime that were coming out at the time that were a bit more, I would say, extravagant or more like big and whimsical and all of this. This is very grounded to reality, and it really does work as a psychological thriller of sorts, almost like if you're watching Darren Aronofsky's work, which Darren Aronofsky is very inspired by Perfect Blue. You can look into that if you want to, and other sort of psychological films that were coming out in the late 90s, early 2000s. There's a lot of that vibe here, and you can tell so many filmmakers were inspired by Perfect Blue once you watch it. And also Paprika. Looking at you, Christopher Nolan. This movie really is incredibly done. The story, the pacing and all of that, it definitely takes turns and twists that you don't see coming. The story never feels like it's jarring. It really feels like it really is a stepping stone into each of these like different like morbid events that take place until you get to a point where it's just complete insanity and you as the character, Mima, feels as well, are losing your mind and you have no clue what's coming next or where you even are at the time. And it's this sort of head spin that Satoshi Kon's able to give you by the third act where you're just like, what the hell is real and what the hell is dream? What is fantasy and all of that? And blending that all together into what I would say is one of the best third acts of any film I've ever seen, because you're just on the edge of your seat, and when the big reveals and twists come, you're just like, what the fuck just happened, right? Even me watching it for a third time, I think it is just so cleverly made in the way that it really leaves you wondering and guessing until that very frame that I think anybody who's watched it knows what I'm talking about. It's just delivered with such an execution that you're just there, just like, that was amazing how they were able to pull that off. The music from Charm is so infectious as well, and that's just a side note right there. I think the acting from the voice actors as well is really great. I've watched this in subbed. I've never watched this dubbed, so I'm not sure how it works with English. I do think that dub can be good sometimes in animes, like I think Death Note has an incredible dub, Fooly Cooly, and Dragon Ball Z. I'm not opposed to dub or sub, so don't get me into that whole battle right there. Sometimes sub is better, sometimes dub is better. But with Perfect Blue, I think it works with the sub. I think the voice actors are great with their emotions and everything, and I enjoy it. I've never watched a dub, maybe I will. But I think the animation, as I said, there are so many scenes here that really break the barrier between dream and reality, and the way that they're elevated because of that. When you're watching something you think is reality and then it's not. The way that Satoshi writes the character of Mima as well is really great. I think he does an amazing job at really fleshing out this story of this person who doesn't have any control over their life, and they're just there going with the wind and with what everybody says. And as she tries to gain control, you immediately see that she starts to fall, and it is just a tragic story at its core. I think Perfect Blue is a movie you see once, like I said, and then you're just like, I think I'm gonna be okay if I don't see that for a bit now, because that was a lot to take in from a film, and it is a very heavy film, one of the heaviest films I've seen. And I think that's why Perfect Blue is such an incredible film and relevant today. It is a film that showcases the horrors of society, this society that has become frenzied and obsessed with celebrities. And nowadays you don't even see it just from celebrities or musicians at the top. People become obsessed with influencers, micro influencers, people that are just posting online. Like I said, nowadays everybody's able to be somebody on the internet. And that's kind of a terrifying thought, right? That people are being sort of pushed to the forefront, and it makes these like niched creators become even more of targets to people that feel they are that much closer to them, right? I think this movie is insane as well with its depictions of certain things, and it really goes over the top when you least expect it. And that's really what makes this an assaulting viewing, especially if this is your first time watching it and you don't know what you're about to get into. It really is a film that is going to leave you scarred by the end of it. It is stylish, it is weird, it has such a style to it as well that makes it such an interesting psychological thriller, I think, by the end, and really a haunting film about fame and what comes with that fame, as well as losing your identity in this crazy world that we all live in, right? Overall, I think Perfect Blue is going to be one of those movies that will be remembered as the years, the decades go by, as a film that is a blueprint for so many of the things we see today still. And I definitely do think it is a damn near perfect film as well, in my opinion, and one I think everybody should at least watch once. Like I said, heavy subjects here that might be a little bit upsetting to a lot of people, so take that into consideration if you're going to be watching this movie. It is definitely a movie that I'm always open to talk about. So that's why I'll be doing a explanation video giving you my interpretation of some of the things that the movie talks about, as well as sort of linking it to a lot of the things we see in our society today, because as I said at the beginning, it is much more timely, I think, than it was 30 years ago. It is so fascinating how Satoshi kind of sort of had foresight as to what was coming 30 years ago when the internet was still in its sort of primitive state, and now how advanced it's gotten, and to the point where things are getting a little bit scary when you really look at it. So I'm going to talk about that in another video, so stay tuned for that probably this week. But join me for 13 days of Halloween as I discuss my 13 favorite horror films. This was number 1 with Perfect Blue. No particular order. I'm just going based on when I saw them and all of that. And I saw Perfect Blue a couple weeks ago. So very excited to keep talking about more movies with you. Check out our Ending Explained for the Black Phone 2 if you haven't, as well as our review for it. We have those up on the channel, and stay tuned for some more announcements coming your way. One that's very, very exciting for me to talk about, so stay tuned, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay positive.